And we're back with another season of In Lifting Color. Our first episode of the season features the ULiftU crew straight out of Philadelphia. We're sitting with Wylie Belasik, Arthur McDaniels, and Jesse Dawson to talk more about ULiftU. Hi, welcome to In Lifting Color. I'm Jess.
And I'm Brandon.
And we are at Sub versus Fitness, and we have some people we want to introduce, but we will allow them to go down the line and introduce themselves. So, who are you?
Cool. Thanks for having us. So, I'm Wylie Belasik. I'm the owner of Sub versus Fitness. We're also the home of CrossFit Center City. Also the founder and executive director for ULiftU, our nonprofit, where we're specifically working with folks coming home from being incarcerated to become professionals in the fitness industry. And also working to make fitness accessible through greater representation and coaching. So, excited to have you all here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
We'll go down the line.
My name is Arthur McDaniels. I'm a ULiftU graduate.
Nice.
How you doing? I'm Jesse Dawson. I'm a member of ULiftU and also a coach at Sub versus Fitness.
Awesome. So the reason we contacted Wylie because I've been following ULiftU for a while, and I think it's an awesome organization and one of those that are basically, we'll get into it. But can you give us a little bit more description about ULiftU, when you started it, what gave you this idea, and then also how long have you been in CrossFit before you even started ULiftU?
Yeah. So I've worked in the field of nonprofit, specifically around like sport as a tool for social change, really since about 2007, in kind of different capacities. And the biggest thing that I learned kind of throughout those different organizations that I worked with was that sport and physical health was a really important part of healthy communities and of the life that people should be able to live. And the challenge, though, was like how to use sport effectively, how to build community, how to build the cultures that we wanted to see, and really to foster that to take place. One of the things that I started seeing over and over again was that specifically for folks who had been incarcerated, their limitations with upward mobility for reemployment and sustainable employment were very limited. Mm-hmm. And so for some of these organizations where I'd worked in communities around the country, what we found was that sport really worked for rebuilding someone's self-esteem, rebuilding their self-image, reconnecting them with the community, having them physically feel better. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if we knew on day one that somebody had a record or something that was going to really pose some challenges down the road for that person to have gainful employment, I felt like I was almost doing a disservice. Mm-hmm. Because we knew sport worked, we knew we could rebuild, get somebody excited again, but we weren't addressing the kind of elephant in the room, which was this past that we had to figure out how it was going to work, mm-hmm. right? So in about 2016, I had been involved with CrossFit kind of off and on for about a year prior to that, just through my own kind of just journey as an athlete, mm-hmm. And getting involved with it. And I was struck by the nature of the things that were done in the CrossFit setting and how that could build a really healthy and strong community. What I saw, though, was that there were some really fundamental issues with the accessibility of that community, and I think a lot of that comes down to leadership and coaching. I think that for the athlete and coach dynamic to really work, you need to see your journey represented in your coach. Mm-hmm. And for me, a lot of these things were kind of swirling together as to like, well, how could this all kind of work? I had been really frustrated, like I said, by the lack of resources for returning citizens. I saw that though CrossFit had a lot of potential, there was a wide range of folks who were not being represented in the CrossFit community and didn't really have access to it. And so I thought, how can we start to pull some of these things together? Mm-hmm. And that was really where ULiftU started, and kind of how it's sort of, the kind of genesis of where it began and where we kind of hope to take it in the future. So now we work with folks coming home from prison. We also work directly in the prison system, getting folks certified before they come home, and then running fitness programs in the parts of Philadelphia that have the highest rates of chronic disease, that have the lowest life expectancy, that have the things which shouldn't be factors. These are preventable conditions, and they are preventable through accessibility. And through guys like Jesse and Arthur and our other graduates running classes. So.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So many quotables in there, but we'll touch that later.
So let me ask you, Arthur. So
Yeah.
are you from the website? I thought I saw that you were the first to go through the ULiftU program.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you in terms of what drew you to that program.
Well, I came to Philadelphia to kind of recreate myself. I had some ups and some downs. I wasn't working at the time. So Wylie, he was doing a presentation. I was like, hey, I need that. I want that. I've been waiting for that. So I joined right quick. Went through the 1 year program, coaching training program. Went through that. Once I graduated, I became a coach in here. For a year, I did that. And now I go out to the community and take classes. Or give classes.
Okay, that's cool. And how about you, Jesse? Like, what drew you to join or sign up to be, go through the process of?
So I was already had familiarity of CrossFit, what CrossFit was, during my time in prison, and I always wanted. Never knew anybody that did it, right? So I always wanted to try it. I'm like, oh, I could do pull-ups, I could do that type of stuff. I like that type of stuff. So during prison, working out is a form of like stress relief, right? It's therapy or whatever. So when I come home, I was in a reentry program, federal reentry program. And Wylie came in to recruit some people, talk to them what fitness is, what was his whole thing about ULiftU. And as soon as he came in, I'm like, this is my chance, right? Mm-hmm. So I fell in love. So, first time Wylie something happened, we got disconnected. But he came back again and, I jumped right in, and went full all the way in, gave it everything I got. And, I love CrossFit. I love the aspect of it, the methodology, everything, community, everything is like what I needed. Something that I needed, something that hold me accountable. And sometimes, make sure, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Yeah.
I think it's interesting what you just said because I had never ever heard of CrossFit in my entire life until I moved out to Philly, went to school, started working, and then someone was like, "Oh, join this gym," and I was like, "Oh, I got my own gym thing I do," and I was like, "I'm not doing this CrossFit." Like, how do you guys think that introducing you guys to CrossFit is then translating to introducing, because I grew up in a neighborhood, it was majority black, like people went to the gym, people did their push-ups, people did their pull-ups, and then we were like, done. Like, but there was no CrossFit language, there was no CrossFit words that I heard, unless you did a sport, like played football, did some cleans sometimes, that kind of thing. But by introducing communities of color into the language of like, oh, there's this CrossFit thing that happens. How do you think that has translated, or have you guys seen that when you do your community classes, introducing some of the workouts, fitness language, whether it's talking about burpees or whatever it is? How do you think that translates into getting more people into fitness?
So I feel as though, like, me knowing what CrossFit is and now I'm explaining to other people, makes them not afraid of it, right?
Yes.
So now people are like, okay, you do CrossFit, and I explain to what CrossFit is. CrossFit is not only doing muscle ups.
Right.
It's different, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people now gain an understanding of what CrossFit is, and now they can, introduce it to somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I feel as though me having knowledge of CrossFit helps people have an understanding of what CrossFit is, because a lot of people don't know what CrossFit is at all, but they have a misconception of what's CrossFit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I say the same. Most people have a misconception, and they're afraid of CrossFit. They hear the word CrossFit, all of a sudden they're afraid, like, I'm not doing it. Mm-hmm. People get hurt too much. Mm-hmm. So once I introduce people into the workout, they said it's different, but they get excited that they were able to do it. It's something that they don't have to be afraid of. So I find it very exciting that somebody that was afraid of it now, like, coming to the class and they want this.
Yeah.
This was on my mind because we did an interview with Project Onyx, and they're based in Iowa. It's Elijah Muhammad and
Patrick Ford.
Mm-hmm. And they're doing like more of a mentorship thing for teens. But they're trying to make their situation national. Now, I don't know. It's like, is ULiftU think it's something that you're trying to just keep it here in Philadelphia, or are you trying to make it national or even tri-state, like more Delaware, Jersey, whatever? Or that was on. I didn't know if that was something you guys are trying to get to, or are you already at?
So it's funny because my first kind of introduction into working sort of in the nonprofit space in 2007, I worked for an organization that started here in Philly, and within the span of 3 or 4 years, we were in like 10 cities, throughout, from like kind of the Midwest to up and down the East Coast. And so it was incredibly fast, and it was incredibly hard to know if like what we were doing was working. And one of the big things for me kind of this time around now is to make sure that the depth of what we're doing is really effective and long-term. And so my goal for this is to really, we're almost at a point where we have kind of the full circle sort of, in the way I sort of envision it in my head of this kind of working, which is we start working in prison. We work with guys before they come home. I also say guys a lot of times. It's not that it's exclusively a male program. It's just that we oftentimes, by the nature of either working with the males in the prison or just the nature of reentry partners and that kind of thing. But to be able to have a system where we're working in prison pre-release, getting folks certified pre-release, come home, come right into our community programs, into this gym, hopefully we're looking to get our own spot open up in Kensington later this year. And then having guys already certified come right home, you're working, you're delivering fitness, making it accessible in the community, and then having that kind of that ecosystem really be, just full circle. Keeping guys from having to make decisions that might lead them going back in, and really just deepen that in Philadelphia. It certainly could work elsewhere, so it's a long way of saying that, but for me there's a lot of pieces that would have to kind of align, and one of the things that I'm trying to be really mindful of with this model and that I advocate for other nonprofits is that there is a tendency to parachute resources in, and I think that especially I think for white people to say that, well, like this kind of savior mentality of like, well, I'm going to just like, I've got this thing that works, and so I'm going to go into this community that needs some help and I'm going to fix it, right? And that's what got us here, right? And so fixing that comes from how do we foster development from the ground up? How do we give communities the ability to heal themselves, not say that I'm not the Band-Aid.
Right.
I am supposed to provide the means to sort of make inroads. So it's a long way of saying that I would like to have a model that could expand, and I think that we're pretty close to having that kind of here in Philly. But so yeah, in the future, but not in a way that's parachuting in resources and then just saying we have all the answers.
What about, since Camden is like so close, and it's pretty much just a mini Philly. Like, have you even thought about just touching that, just to see, do a sample of expansion just with a city that's so close and resembles the same type of struggles? And I'm just asking.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. Like, I think that the what's cool about expanding a program is that it forces you to understand what about your program is relative to the environment that your program started in, or like the city itself, and what about your program is like endemic to it that will then exist anywhere, kind of thing. So like I kind of learned that from before with the other organization. Like we thought there were certain things that were just like bedrock until like we did it in Baltimore, we did it in Boston, we did it in Dallas, and we were like, oh, we got to do it a little bit differently or shift it a little bit so that it takes on what the people who are there want it to be, make it their own, So I mean, it's my job is really, raising the money to keep the wheels going. So like the more, with more funding, there's more program. That's
true.
That's the thing. So I try to get out of the way, raise the money, and Jesse and Arthur and our other graduates, they run the show. I just try to keep the lights on.
How many total graduates do you have? Like, how many people? And then how many? I also asked Jess this because I thought she might know, but I shouldn't have assumed. Like, how many people that graduated the program stay with the CrossFit model or have just ventured out into a different genre of fitness?
Yeah. So we have three L1 graduates. We have another guy who is pretty close right now, and we have 14 guys currently enrolled in the state prison program in Chester, who were, and obviously this becomes a long story, except not, but like we had a level 1 scheduled with CrossFit for those 14 guys last July. It was on the books. It was ready to go, everything. And then, Glassman turned out to be Lord Voldemort, and, away went that whole thing. And so then we had to scramble and get a different certification process and get guys enrolled through kind of a different means and mail out, books and stuff into prison and all that kind of stuff. So that's the scope of like the program currently, and we've kept it to the scale that it's been relatively small because I wanted to make sure that on the way out that there were at least legitimate part-time opportunities, whether working for us or working for elsewhere. Like Jesse works at another gym as well. Arthur's worked for a different like coaching the apartment gyms complex.
Yeah.
Like
I don't do it anymore, but I used to do private classes.
Oh, that's
To
awesome.
another company, I used to go to apartment building in Germantown, right here in Center City, and people pay for personal training.
Okay.
So I did that for a while.
Yeah.
And I stopped. Got to be too much.
Yeah. Is that usually how it kind of works? Like you guys could either, like there's opportunities if there's space at the gym, because I know that's hard. Like there's only so many classes, and then you have all these other coaches.
Mhm.
So is that usually like if there's a spot for coaching, you guys will coach here, but then also look elsewhere for coaching at other gyms or in other fitness areas, or just do like personal training? Like I could do personal training. Like how does that work? Is that how it usually goes for you guys?
Well, before I was introduced to Wylie, I was at another gym already.
Oh, okay.
So I was, I love fitness. So
Mhm.
it wasn't just an opportunity. It was like something that I wanted to do. So, Wylie has made it so whereas though I got enough classes here,
That's
and
good.
I also have classes there as well.
Okay.
So, I split my time between the both of them, but, I'm here.
Yeah.
The same for me. I did the personal training thing, but I like just going to the community center, going to the libraries, meeting people, doing classes. That's where the fulfillment comes in.
For sure.
So that's now all I do with the ULiftU program.
Yeah.
Going around the city, making classes happen.
We have a cool partnership with the free library system here in Philadelphia where they're trying to figure out different ways to like reinvigorate the libraries. And so they're doing like cooking classes, but they also want to do like a fitness program. And so what Arthur does is they'll rotate like a library for like 4 weeks and then go to a new one, right? Yeah. And then so Arthur, and you've done some of them too.
Library class.
Yeah.
And
so
Whiskey.
yeah, so you can basically like rent out a set of like bands and a yoga mat and like some basic stuff, and then Arthur and Jesse come by and like run a class at the library using like this fit kit that you like check out and like can take home. It's a really cool idea.
That was cool. That is a good idea.
Also, they do it online too.
Oh, that's
We've
nice.
done it Facebook Live.
Yeah.
And we've also done it Zoom.
Yeah, I was wondering how it changed with COVID and the community classes. I know it's been hard to have those with just the rules. But have you guys still been able to do the Zoom?
Yeah, we
Facebook
do
Live?
it. But the library we're waiting for them to start back up.
Right.
But I do Zoom classes 3 times a week, 4 times a week.
Yeah.
4 times a week.
Yeah. And Arthur's done that consistently without pause, like throughout. Like that, he started doing that in March. You have people who have started. So it's not. So we had like a group of people who are already coming to the community centers. We were working out of 2 community centers in North Philly, and then some of those people transitioned over to online. But you also have new people, and then like I don't know. Tell them like what you're doing on Sundays. That's cool.
Sunday, I started a couple of weeks ago a beginner's class. This class is for people who don't really like the confidence, don't want to go to the gym, don't want to be around people, don't want nobody to see where they're at right now. Some people are overweight, some people are way overweight, some people just don't have the confidence. So anyway, I got a few people in that class, and I'm slowly introducing them to the CrossFit method.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
That's Sunday. In fact, when this is over, I'm going to do the class at 3:30.
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah,
goodness. Good to know. Good to know.
How much of your community classes have actually, say, innovated into the subversus fitness, or it once was called Center City CrossFit? Like, how many of those people actually said, you know what, I'm just going to go into the real deal? Not so they're not just sticking with the community classes or
Yeah, like
your
how
try
many-
your
Can I say something? Well, the community classes are for people who pretty much can't afford
Okay.
CrossFit. The membership is over $200 a month. So when we go into the community, we're speaking to people who don't have no $200 a month to apply.
Okay.
So the first thing is to get them interested in working out.
All right.
Get them interested in having a better nutrition plan. So as we work with them there at the community center, then Wylie has a bright idea that we're going to have ULiftU gym of our own. So that's what we want people in the community classes to go to the ULiftU gym, because he's going to base it on a financial situation where they can afford it.
Yeah.
So we're branching off.
Yeah, which is, I think, so a lot of the conversations we had with our athletes in the past has been the accessibility factor of CrossFit itself. Not only the scary factor of like, I don't want to do that, that's not for me, but also it is a very expensive. All the gyms I think that we've ever been to have roughly been $125 to, I've never been to a $200 gym, but I don't live in the city, but like $200. So that is a big factor. But then channeling that into like CrossFit's, is there this fairness of it's so, like you said, it's so uplifting. It builds confidence. Something that you said, I know I'm getting wordy, but something that you said that you're not in the women prison system yet. But I think the amount of confidence that it gives a woman who, there's all these other things about that, but just thinking about like in Black women in general, their health and fitness. It's intimidating to go do fitness after, number one, just being a woman. Number two, if you've had a baby, you have a family, all of those things. So yes, getting in the community classes starts that confidence building. But then having a gym like that kind of builds in these things like, who would have thought I'd be doing a pull-up? Like, women don't do pull-ups is how I've always heard it. But thinking about how that can change somebody's mindset and not having to think about the money aspect, like you said, because that is a big commitment. How do you think that having that ULiftU component in the community can then also having coaches that look like me and you, like having a coach that looks like me and my community doing this, how do you think that has fostered, or have you seen that foster different mindsets, mentalities in your community classes? Have you seen people come back and say anything about that? Or
I mean, I think that for this play, like, I think that one of the places where gyms go wrong, and I'm like by no means so I have this like figured out. Let's be very clear. But like, I think one of the ways that people go wrong is kind of twofold. I think one, people assume that if you're like me, you're a white gym owner and you have a primarily white gym membership, that the only reason why people think, well, it's a money issue, right? Which then also assumes that anybody who is Black or of color doesn't have the money, which is also an assumption that you shouldn't make. And I think it also then lets gyms off the hook to say, well, then it's just about money. It's not about who my staff is. It's not about the word choice that we use. It's not about how we position ourselves. And so I think that, for one, who you hire as staff, who you cultivate as staff is important. But I think it's also then important to look at the fact that like the CrossFit gym model is hyper local, right? If you ask the people who go to a gym, they're usually from that very much that surrounding community. And one of the things so here in Philadelphia, right, like we're smack in the heart of downtown. This is, the highest concentration like of wealth in the city is right here. Right. And this is also where the longest life expectancy is, lowest rates of chronic disease, all of these kind of factors. If you go about 2.5 miles north of here, the life expectancy for a Black man drops to 68 years old. Right. You then have all these other factors of higher unemployment. You have higher populations of folks coming home from prison to live again. And so I think so I could say for this location, we could say, well, we're just going to make this just because it's about the money. It's just about this. No, it's about like you need to make fitness accessible both by representation of who the coaches are, but also physically where it is. Like we can't just say, well, we're just going to run a bunch of free classes. You have to physically go into a community that needs help and hire people who have grown up there. Like Jesse and Arthur and Rodney, one of our other coaches, like I shouldn't be the one walking in North Philadelphia and being like, hey, let's get healthy. I didn't grow up there, right? So it's about creating the space for Jesse to be a coach and for Arthur to be a coach and making fitness accessible in that way, which I think is really important. And I think that's a big thing often gets missed with like how gyms need. Like sometimes you got to get outside of your own walls because you may just physically, by your geography, not be able to accomplish what you want to do. It's fine, but then get out of there.
Yeah.
Well, I say that a lot. I mean, it's all about placement. Like if the gym was there, then those people would go.
Yeah.
So it's all about where it is. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's a big aspect.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned about doing a pull-up, push-up. My goal when I'm doing a client is to make sure that a person could come into this gym and do the same workout with everybody else. Like that, ladies be like, oh, you don't need to do regular push-up. Oh, I'm going to get you to do a regular push-up. We're going to start from where you're at, but the goal is to get you to do a push-up.
Yeah.
The goal is to get you to be snatching dumbbells. So we're doing basically the same workout that's done here.
Yeah.
And we talked about that early on, like that would always be the case, and that's why like Arthur coached here as well as with ULiftU for a while, and then shifted to just running ULiftU classes exclusively. You know, Jesse coaches for both organizations. You know, all of our graduates, at least to start, this gym kind of becomes like the test kitchen. Then it's like, okay, now take this out into the community, make this more accessible. And that's always one of the things that's really important to me is that like the same quality product has to be consistent. The same thing that is delivered out of a rec center in North Philadelphia should be the same product that you would be proud to do that someone's paying $200 a month for.
Yeah.
Like it should be the same thing. And the rec center equipment, like we buy like new equipment for those classes because I also think it's like, oh well, like they could get like cast-offs kind of thing. It's like no, why? Like exactly, you should get the real thing. You should do the real thing because if people who are in the class then rise to that standard, right?
Yeah.
Like if we say that that's important in one place, but we're like, well, it's good enough somewhere else.
Yeah.
No, it's not. Like the standard should be the same.
For everything.
Yeah.
Something that in one of our interviews, one of the people said was when you walk into a CrossFit gym, because the accessibility is also about feeling welcome into a gym space, period, wherever you are. And when you walk into a gym, that somebody, whether it's the owner, the coach, or what have you, should talk to you within, 7 minutes? Within 7 minutes of you being there. Because I think a lot of stuff came out last year where people of color talked about, I've been in a gym and people don't talk to me the same way they talk to other white members or what have you. Now, we haven't been able to talk to a lot of coaches about, like, when you walk into the gym and you're like, I'm the coach today, and how that, if it's been like, all right, this is good, or did it take a long time to build that level of rapport, which probably happens with all coaches, but did you feel there was an extra challenge, or do you guys feel comfortable when it was time to come in and like, all right, you graduated, time to coach?
So I like how Wylie put the program together.
Mm-hmm.
As well as though like we come in and take classes.
Okay.
So we were taking classes with a lot of members, right? And then we eased into it. I think it was like 1 day a week. We'll practice like live coaching. Right? It wasn't all about taking the book test, right? It was learning how to be an actual coach, not just having the knowledge, but being able to give people knowledge of fitness, right?
Yeah.
So at first, we taking class with all the members and then coaching the members just 1 day a week. And then as we got better and as we got our level ones, we started coaching the classes. So we know a lot of the members been here.
Yeah.
Some members been here 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So with a lot of the members, I have a relationship with them. Right? We talk all the time. We have stuff in common. So it was an easy transition for that. So it wasn't just me just coming off the street. Wylie hired me off the street.
Right.
Me coming in.
And you're the
No
coach.
one knows me.
Right.
So I'm pretty close to the community. So it's comfortable.
That's good.
For me, it was very exciting coming in here, and the room is filled with white people. You got doctors, you got dentists, you got lawyers, and I'm all of a sudden coach. And they were so welcoming, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
That gave me confidence. They knew more about CrossFit than I did, actually. But they welcomed me, made me feel comfortable, listened. My confidence built up like that. So from day one, I felt comfortable here. I haven't been in here coaching for a minute. When I come back, hey, how you doing? It's always been comfortable. Family
Awesome. So I just didn't know if that was a hard transition for you guys.
Yeah, I mean I very deliberately kind of step one is as soon as you're in the program, even before you start the kind of the So folks who are in the kind of like coach trainee portion of it, which usually is about 10 to 12 months. It kind of everybody's a little bit different. Everybody's learning styles are a little bit different. But the first month, the first thing you're doing, you go through the on-ramp here the same as anybody would. Same as anybody who walked in and was like, hey, I want to get started. Cool, you go through the same on-ramp, and then you're taking classes. You have to be in here 3 to 4 days a week, just taking classes for the first month. Then after that, then you start to continue to take classes, but you're also then in the classroom another 3 to 4 hours per week, starting to work through kind of the academic side of coaching, starting to learn about anatomy, physiology, programming, nutrition, all the back-end stuff.
Yeah.
So that that process then is concurrent, so that you're both learning the hard skills to be a coach, but you're also in the room doing it, and you're also starting to interact with the people who down the road you may very well be coaching.
Yeah.
And then from there you start to also put in time at the front desk. So again, you're getting more and more face time with everybody.
Yeah.
So my goal is to make that process as seamless as possible, so that it is just sort of full on integration in what we're doing and the back end of the program. Because I mean that's a big hurdle. I mean it's still a hurdle. Like I mean you've talked about that before. Like when you go from taking the 7 a.m. to coaching the 7 a.m. It's different.
It's different. Like going into any new environment, you're going to be nervous, right?
Yeah.
So it's a lot. So it's just naturally being nervous.
Absolutely.
But I don't think it was like them looking at me crazy. Like,
Right.
oh, who is he? 'Cause
Yes.
they knew me.
They had already known
But
you. Yeah.
I know the other side of it, going into class, coaching classes at other gyms. But I never had that in my mind. Like, my mind is, I'm going there. I know what I know.
Right.
And and I'm gonna present it and make sure we execute. The movement's right. That's it.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Being in the class up front, after being in the class with people who are like in better shape than you, faster than you, they've been around way longer than you. Now I'm standing up there and I'm gonna correct their movement. That was difficult for me. I personally never coached anybody, but I was confident.
Yeah.
I was confident that I read the material, I've done the work, so I could do this.
Yeah.
But the point I want to make is that people in the class helped me
Right.
because they showed no type of resistance. If what I told them was correct, they corrected it.
Yeah.
They corrected the move. They helped me.
Yeah.
And I think that comes back to like the community that you build like
Absolutely.
within the gym. And I think that is one of the things that I've been, and I know like you guys wanted to bring up like the relationship like CrossFit bigger and stuff like that, and we get into that whenever. But like I think there are responsibilities that CrossFit HQ has, but I also equally think that there are responsibilities that the CrossFit affiliate community has. And I think that initially, especially after the summer, people were very quick to point to all of the things that HQ hadn't done, which were very valid. But I also don't think that there was as much done of turning around and looking and saying, well, what have I fostered in my community, right? Because there was nothing in the level 1 that said, or in the charter of having an affiliate that's like you can only have white coaches, right? But disproportionately, that was what it was, right? There was nothing that said that like you have that these, a lot of the things which kind of institutionally sort of got built into the CrossFit culture were facilitated by affiliates. And so there's 2 levels of responsibility there as to what what are the standards for your community? What do you want to have? Like CrossFit didn't make you do those. You decided what they were, for better or for worse. And I think that's important. I think sometimes that's where like people just push the stuff onto CrossFit. Yeah, CrossFit's got a lot of work to do, and I think they are grappling with that now.
Yeah. For sure.
Yeah,
I think that brings up even what you guys said, like when you guys came into class, you guys felt welcomed. Because I think that's been, like I said, like a big talking point is that even just being a regular Joe Schmo, walking into a gym, I'm here to do CrossFit. As a person of color, a lot of people have been stating how unwelcome they feel when they're in their gyms. But that's a gym issue. Like you said, like it's not a CrossFit issue.
Yeah,
like,
it's not here.
It's not, right, and that's not here. I feel the same, like, at my gym, I'm like, well, I'm in there. Like, I'm all up in there, people are talking, like, we have a conversation, I do feel welcomed, but I have been to gyms where I feel the opposite, where I'm, like, outcasted or that kind of thing. So I think that's, like you said, like, does it start small or does it start bigger HQ? But you're kind of saying, like, it starts in the gym, where the gyms make you feel welcome. Because if you were to go to another gym and you're like, ooh, feeling icky, like, like something's here that's not my fault, but that's the gym's leadership.
it's been said to us many times that it's like your gym is you. It's not HQ. Like
Right.
you
Yeah.
are you.
Yeah.
Like they can do whatever they want up
Right.
there, but it doesn't determine how people are going to look at you as a gym.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's always like if anybody asks me about stuff like that's how I always say it. It's like it starts right here. It starts in your four walls and
Mhm.
then branch out.
Yeah.
Whatever they do up there is just that's the advertisement. That's not that like the help you market easier.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
For sure.
Oh, this is good. Okay, yeah. So on the larger scale, as far as CrossFit goes, have you guys been able to get like? My mom's not doing CrossFit. Your mom's not doing CrossFit, but like I think sometimes, like you said, when you don't know, you don't know what you don't know. But as you guys have exposed more people, like in the community, like you said, like I want you to be able to do what they're doing in Center City here in North Philly. Like we're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Have you guys noticed that like expansion of people coming to you and be like, Jesse, I know you do the gym thing. It's January 1st. We're here at the beginning of a new year. I want to get involved. Have you guys noticed that more within this since you guys have gotten your certifications and been doing more classes?
Let me understand the question, but
Have you noticed like your community, your family, your friends more interested in fitness now that you guys are like
Yes,
working?
definitely.
yes,
You
I got
definitely.
my sisters, I got
Yeah.
my daughter.
See?
In
Yeah.
this class that I'm about to do, my sister and my daughter.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
See? It's slow. It happens. It happens with Jesse's
It
like,
took a while. Though.
Yeah.
We're talking 4 years later, and I've been telling them, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that.
right.
And now they like dedicate every week.
Yes. Okay. See? So just 4 more
Well,
years.
Your son's going to do it in about 12
Oh
minutes.
yeah.
He's a young
Yeah, he's
athlete.
all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
There you go. It's happening. It's
Yeah.
happening.
What do you guys, and I'm asking all three of you, how do you all feel about the sport of CrossFit in terms of the inclusiveness, the diversity of the sport? We're not talking just the gym and
Yeah,
just
yeah.
people getting healthy with the gym. We're talking like how it's broadcasted as a sport as well. Like how do you all feel about that? Do you indulge in watching it as entertainment, or do you even indulge in it, like take it as a sport at all at times?
So Wylie asked all the coaches the question, like, what really impacted you this year? I always mess her name up.
Akinwale.
Akinwale.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Akinwale.
Yeah.
So, like in prison, I seen her perform in a CrossFit game, right? And she crushed it. And I was so surprised to see her there, right? And then they go into a story about how she just had a baby 6 months prior, like, and was crushing the game. So that really and then the story came out of how and I always asked Wylie, why isn't she a Philly, right? So it all came out, but she still stood her ground, did what she loved to do. And, I always looked at that as like, wow, why isn't that like a lot of people like her, like me in CrossFit, and, I just always wondered that, but, it is.
Yeah.
I personally get inspired watching CrossFit games, reading about people that do CrossFit, like Matt Fraser. This man has won the thing for 4 years in a row. He's
I
fittest
know.
man in the world. I'm like, what? How could you do that in a row like that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that to me is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And,
It's like amazing, sometimes like unreal, like
Yes.
stuff that, even though we're in the CrossFit world,
Yes.
like it's
That's another level.
Yes.
like a whole
Another
other
level, yeah.
We say it all the
Do
time.
you still feel, even for myself, like just seeing the people achieving what they achieve, do you think you still need to see people like that look like us achieving those things to get even more?
Yeah, I believe
Or
so.
do you think we're just tuned a different way that it doesn't matter who we see, we just
No.
like seeing the accomplishment?
Yes, so I know like us, like we have the capability of doing it, but we don't have the exposure of what CrossFit is, the access to, a CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
I think we will excel a lot. Like, we just, got introduced to it.
Absolutely.
We don't get introduced to certain stuff. That's why you don't see certain, people doing certain things.
Right.
Like some sports cost more than other sports. I'm just on like in the whole not even CrossFit, but like sports period.
Yeah.
Right? But I think, you know, a lot of people that, if they knew what CrossFit was, would be like elite athletes.
Absolutely.
Now, there are always a few of us around. We just don't know. But when I'm sitting at that desk about to do a class and I see somebody look like me come down the steps, I'm excited. I play it off like, I'm coming in, I'm going to have them show them the tour and all that. But there was this guy who was at the University of Penn. He was at the Wharton School. He's from New York. Black guy. He came here every Sunday in my class. That's a bad man. Right?
Yeah.
And I said to him, I was like, you make me feel good, man. So you come in here and represent.
Yeah.
Then there was another guy who was an actor. Remember him? The guy who was an actor.
Yeah.
He came in here, traveled all over the country, so he's been going to CrossFit gym.
Yeah.
So it's not like there's nobody. It's
Right.
just that there's not a lot that we see every day.
That
This
we see.
people, he came in here representing
Yeah.
well.
Absolutely.
You know, so it's people that come in
They're
here,
there.
here and there, they do their thing.
I mean, I think it's like seeing it's representation and coaching in
Absolutely.
class. It's the same way at the competitive level. Right? I mean, like
Absolutely.
the more that the better. I think that there's been a lot of. I think like the games relative to CrossFit is like such a topic that like nobody really knows. Like, does it help? Does it hurt?
Right.
Like, where does it kind of boil down? And I think that I think that its lack of diversity certainly does not help the broader community,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So I think that I think when they tried to do like the national champion model, I think it was like a small move in that direction of at least recognizing the fact that like let's put a deliberate effort to get more people from more parts of the world involved with the competitive side of the sport.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot of, because for some people, like Jesse was saying, like you've talked about watching the games in prison, and then like everybody goes out and is like, well, let me do a muscle up kind of thing, right?
That's what
And right? And it's like, if you, like when I'm in prison, I look out in like the yard where guys are working out, and like the gymnastics that are happening is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, and so but if you don't see again anybody at the games who looks like you, then it's like, well, then that's not for me. And for some people, the games are inspiring. For some people, the games are a total turnoff. But if you have a more diverse group of people at the games, you serve to bring more people into the community level of the sport. So it needs to be there.
And I think one thing that you said that stood out was that every sport can be expensive, right? Like lacrosse is expensive. There's a lot of expensive sports. But the accessibility to do it is the big thing. Like if I happen to, somebody in West Philly turns on the TV, ESPN has the games on, they're like, wait, what are they doing? What are they doing? If they turn on and NBA is on, there's a court for them to go to. And they might not dunk today, but they have somewhere to, you see that guy? He looks like me. I want to do that. I'm going out there to the court. I got a court right here. It's hard to say I got a gym right there where I could do that, right? Could I? I'm gonna try it. Like you said, like you go out the yard, they have the gymnastics equipment to do it right there. If we don't have, I mean, I think that's the bigger deal of the ULiftU gym being in North Philly. If someone were to ever turn on ESPN, the games were to be on, and they said, I could do that. Could they? Like, where could they test it? If the gym is in North Philly, they could say, there is a gym that kind of looks like this, that they can do it. I could try it. Right, I could just try it. Like, and then if you can't, there's somebody there that looks like you, or just somebody there, period, to say, you're trying to do that? All right, let's just get a push-up today. Like, like to coach you through it. Just like if you were to go to the court, someone would be there to say, you're trying to dunk? All right, let's talk about, like, the mechanics and that kind of thing. So I think it's like you said, like, we could turn it on and it could be there. Is it important to have people that look like me and you on it? Absolutely. But is it more important for someone to be able to go and try it somewhere that they can just go try it? Like, that's a big part of it, too.
Now, to that point, we can't blame anybody when it's presented to you and you reject it, like, no, that's not for me.
Absolutely.
See, try it out first. And some of us have that mindset that, we're not used to this, we haven't heard of this. We want to try something new like that. Maybe I might get hurt, it's too much.
Yeah.
Even some people that come into class, they feel like it's too much. That's not the kind of thing they want to do. So everybody don't stay. Some people are like, nah, I ain't doing that.
Yeah.
But the people that stay is good. But the point is, don't always like have the mindset that I can't do this. That's not for me. Give it a shot. And if you don't give it a shot, then you can't say, oh, CrossFit is
right.
Right.
Can't say.
I was like, I've done CrossFit since 2014, you since 2013.
Mhm.
You were my only, and I don't think you were, I guess you
I
were my
was
coach.
a coach.
You were my coach for like 2 classes. You were my coach for like 2 classes, and that was my one and only black coach, and now I married him. Like, you can't do that. Like, that doesn't happen. Like, you can't, that's not a thing. But, like, the chances of me having a coach that looked like me, I've never had a black female coach. Wylie, we just interviewed Alicia, oh God, we just interviewed Alicia. Look Like Mother is her Instagram name, but she does an Amplify program. But she was a coach as well, but now she does her own programming. But those weren't my coaches. Like, for me to see a black woman, but a black person in general, was rare.
Yeah.
And I think it's like you said, to see somebody that is in front of the class. I mean, in the class, important as well, because I might want to see somebody and be like, we made a joke one time, like, oh, you guys all heard of Martin before, the TV show? No. They did not hear of Martin, the TV show.
Wow.
Yes, I know. Right. But that's like, that's culturally, right? Like, I'm in a gym full of people. I'm like, nobody knows it. Right. I think we went back and forth with a bunch of people.
It's because of, you'll say the damn Gina thing.
Yeah.
And people are like, my name's not Gina. And I'm like,
yeah, they don't get it.
Like, if you don't know that I'm not calling you actually Gina, then it's like you definitely don't know what Martin is.
Exactly. And it's like, in a class, it's a relatability thing to be able to go to the, like, one person be like, hey, Gina. Like, like someone be like, I got it, I know what you're saying. But then to have somebody in front of the class that looks like you, like, I'd be like, okay, let's do this class. Like you said, I get a little excited when I do see a new member, and I'm like, I'm Jess. Come back to me, like, that looks like me.
Yeah.
Just for that, like, relatability factor. Maybe culturally you'll know some things I'm referencing. But yeah, I do think, like you said, that is a really big, important part, at least for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
I might point out, when I first came in my very first class, there was a black guy in the class.
Yeah.
He's still in the class all the time. But he said to me, I said, oh, this is weird. I don't, this kind of workout is not something that I've done or used to. He said, hey, run your own race. Mm-hmm. He's telling me, don't try to compare to nobody. Do what you do. Do it to the best of your ability. You'll get it. Mm-hmm. And he's still around.
Yeah,
I've been in this class since I came.
That's funny. My first ever CrossFit class was actually with a black guy too. I forget his name, but I remember he is a chiropractor. I remember that much. And I remember both of us were just suffering. And I know we both walked into that gym because it was only us two too.
Wow.
Like, she held a class for it, like a session for us. I guess I wouldn't call it a class because we were both beginners and we were just starting. So
like on-ramp.
Yeah, but it wasn't an on-ramp because she just threw us into the fire.
There was no ramp.
No ramp. She just like, give it a shot, because we both inquired at the same, like, around the same time, and then she just both had us come in at the same day.
Yeah.
And it was just, I'm sure she was putting it together like, oh, 2 black males, let's have them work together and hopefully that'll make them stay and keep coming. That's smart, right? Because it worked out. It worked out. We both joined the gym.
Yeah.
And then she ended up asking me to become a coach and sent me. So she sent you to get. So like, pretty much, I didn't do ULiftU, but a woman, her name is Terry Ann. She saw me come into the gym, and I don't even really tell the story. And she was like, "Do you want to be a coach?" And I'm like, I never really coached anybody before. Like, all I've ever done is worked out for myself and played sports. Mm-hmm. She was like, no, I think you'll be really good at it. She was like, I'll send you to the level 1. Mm-hmm. I was like, you will? She's like, yeah, don't even worry, I'll send it to you. I looked up where the level 1 was and saw how much it cost, and I was like, wait, how much do you want me to pay? She was like, no, I'll pay for it. Yeah. And I was just like, all right. And and
here we are.
Yeah.
Look,
and I think
she's done a lot. Like, that little bit of introduction and help has now, not the hoodie I walked in with, but now I have my own thing, and it's because she gave me that jump start.
Which I think goes back to what you were saying about, like, it's just about the push. Like, I think people are scared, and Elijah Muhammad said this too. Gyms make their own rules. Like, if you want to give one member who says, like, CrossFit's too expensive, but I love doing this, thanks for introducing me, I'm going to just do the free classes online. You could, I'm sure there's business things too, but, like, you could say, listen, we're going to give you the $20 rate. If this is meaningful for you, it could change your life. We can do this. And gyms have that power. CrossFit HQ can't tell you, no, don't do ULiftU. Don't do ULiftU. Don't send some random Joe Schmo to get a one.
Right.
That's your gym.
Right.
So if you have an idea to diversify your gym, to add more people of color, to add different ages of people, because that's another thing, right? We get a lot of coaches that are between the age of like 25 and 40, and that's like the coach age. Like, it doesn't have to be that way, right? Like, we can get a Peggy to coach, right? Like, but your gym has to empower your members to feel comfort doing that. So I think that's like a big part of why we really like ULiftU, why we like the whole. It just makes sense. Like, I don't know, it just makes sense to me. But how do you guys think other ways that CrossFit could do that? Like, diversify its membership, whether it's the people of color, the ages of people, where people come from. Somebody from North Philly, West Philly, like South Philly, like wherever. I mean, we're in Philly, so that's why I'm bringing those up. But like, how do you think gyms, CrossFit in general, the sport, owners of gyms, HQ, if they're listening, could diversify their membership, their coaching staff? And I want to hear from all of you if you guys think that that's a possibility.
Yeah. I think that I've talked to a number of other like affiliate owners over the past few months sort of about this. And have you all talked to Seike from CrossFit HCS?
Not yet. We're hoping February. Her and I have pinned down the end of February.
All right, she's awesome. I've talked to her a lot, and also Maillard from Dean CrossFit up in Brooklyn.
Yes.
And I like talk to them both a lot, and because one of the things that's important to me, and like I've asked this also of like our like board for ULiftU, is that like I am often a white guy in a white room who's trying to bring up and advocate for issues that disproportionately affect the Black community. And so how am I useful? And the biggest way that I try to do that is to try to become irrelevant, right? Like that should be the goal, and that would be the most like true form of usefulness, but also to advocate when voices aren't at the table.
Yeah.
And I think that like one of the things that got brought up was that like this issue of one of the things that like CrossFit HQ did very early on was say, okay, well, we're going to start like scholarship program, like push it out there kind of thing.
Yeah.
And my feeling is that like you need to take a longer sort of lens or wraparound look at like what the point of that is, right? Because you could say if your goal at the end of the day is greater representation, which I think is a really like good place to start. As you've said, if you don't see yourself represented in the class or by the coaching, then the rest of it's kind of not going to work. And so I think that you could say, all right, well, we're going to just scholarship like whoever wants to L1.
Right.
Well, fine. But what happens then if there are no jobs for that person to become a coach? What if they then can't, there's nowhere to coach, or there's no gym that is welcoming or environment, or the economics aren't there, or that kind of thing. And so I think that first you have to look at like, what's the viability of the industry? How are you going to pay people? Because at the end of the day, if you can't pay somebody, then like what's the point of getting somebody certified? It's just all you're going to do is frustrate that person further. You're going to say, take this time and energy, even if you pay for the one, you still got to go, right? You still got to study for it, you still got to do it. And then on the other end, if that coach would have said to you, oh well, yes, I ran, but there's a job. It's like, well then what the hell was the point, right? And so I think that to me it comes down to like so many things. It's representation, but it's also valuing people, and that means literally with money. That means literally paying coaches. That means literally like when you're in our program as a trainee, you earn $12.50 per hour, right? That's for that. So if you come in here and you take the 6 a.m. class, you earn $12.50 an hour. If you're in the classroom, it's $12.50 an hour. When you start coaching, you start your class at $25 an hour when you go up from there. Like, and that's not going to solve all the issues, but like I think you really have to start by like how can the job aspect of it really work? And I think that's a piece that gets overlooked, because like the scholarship thing, it's necessary, but it's also that's not the root of the issue.
Like
and that's my opinion. That doesn't solve the inner workings of it. And I think a lot of times the white community oversimplifies by just trying to scholarship or make another GoFundMe or something like that, right? And that's not the core element, right? The core element has to be, how do you create a system where you don't need to make the GoFundMe?
Exactly.
That's the solution, So I mean, that's my soapbox and stuff.
Wylie, when I met him, he didn't ask me my age until we got to the application part. I mean, you have to put your name, birthday, and all that.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter when I told him. I'm happy to be 58 right now, right? He said, here's an opportunity. This is what the requirement is. I said, hey, I like this opportunity, and I'm going to do this. So the people who come, they have to be the right fit too.
Mm-hmm.
They have to really want it, because
Mm-hmm.
the man, and I can vouch for it, he does what he says he's going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And what he says he's going to do at the end of the line sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm living proof that he'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
He'll do what he says he's going to do. So the people that come in, they got to be serious. They got to really want it. They got to be willing to put in the work. And that's not always easy. So
Yeah.
CrossFit could take Wiley's model.
They really could.
I'm serious.
No, me too. I'm with you.
You said what could headquarters
Yes.
do,
Yeah.
right?
I'm with
saying,
you.
look at this model that he's
Yep.
created,
I mean,
and it works.
And they have
Absolutely.
scholarship. Like I want to give them, I can certainly acknowledge the efforts that they have done on our behalf. Like all the
Yeah.
level ones that we've had have always been comped by CrossFit.
Right.
In May, when was that trip? In May of
When we
2019.
went to California?
Yeah.
Yeah, we went
So-
around.
So Jeff Kane, who was the only other CEO, I guess Castro was a CEO for what, like 12 hours.
Yes.
But there was the former CEO, Jeff Kane, who was there from, I guess, 2017 until I think like 2019. He was there and kind of in charge of like the regionals remodel and all
Okay.
that sort of stuff. And we're still in close contact with him. He offered to bring us out to like Santa Cruz and to come to
Oh,
HQ, and we were out
cool.
there and met everybody, and we're a part of that
Oh,
thing.
that's
So
cool.
I mean, like I definitely and I still am in contact, pretty close contact with HQ, and had a chance to talk with Eric Rosa, one to one, and I was grateful for that. So so I definitely want to give them their opportunity, but also like it's about making things better.
Yes.
So yeah. Jesse, I don't know if you want.
I know you have any input.
I can't put it no plainer. They need to follow Wiley's.
I know,
Wiley's
yeah.
footsteps, right? So it's just on supporting us more, right?
Yeah.
but so
That'll work.
they know of you, like you.
Oh,
That's
man.
so. That's like
Yeah.
that's ridiculous to me to know that there is a
model
program
that
or a
works.
model
Yeah.
out there, and they backed you,
Yeah.
with certifications,
Yeah.
but then they just go and do what they did. It's
I
like,
think
and you had conversations with this new CEO.
I think it's a hard line because I think I said this with Alicia too. Is that they hear all these great things, but it's one thing to hear about it and then be about it. Because I think the hard part is people don't even know where they stand on this. Like Eric Rosa, I haven't had a conversation with him, but like to understand, like I know where I stand on what diversity means to me. It means I could go into a gym and I feel that even if I am the only black person, I don't feel outcasted. I don't feel like people aren't welcoming to me. I don't feel like, and like you said, like, yes, the games, there's like the Olympics of CrossFit and everything is not that. But after George Floyd was murdered, and we've talked about this, Chandler Smith was like the face.
Mhm.
And it was like, Chandler Smith, look at him here, we're going to sponsor him. And it was like, okay, did you guys find the one black athlete that is like games?
Oversaturated.
Right, and it was like, here's how we're going to do it right. We are diverse. We do value black people. But like, understanding what that truly meant. And I think it's like, it's one thing to hear the model, but then understanding truly why it works is a different thing. Like they could hear the model, they could know that works, but they haven't seen it and felt it and like engaged enough to understand like how do we duplicate this? Because I think, like you said, the scholarship was probably to them like, this is very similar, right? Like, like this is kind of like what Wiley's doing, right? Yeah, like
I mean,
but
based off that commercial that they had during the games this fall, or it seemed like it was for teens and kids. It's like, so they're gonna get this scholarship, they're gonna get certified as a teenager. They're still not gonna work for 5 more years, and the certification is up.
Right.
yeah, and then they have to
That doesn't
research
even
and
make
pay for it.
That's actually the sidebar to that, which is one of like the crazy. I'm very grateful for the opportunity to get to work with the guys in prison because it's very like grounding. It's one of the things I really do miss over the past year, not being able to go in there, because one of the things we talked about when we were going to do the level 1 last July was that one of the guys said, well, like, I'm not going to be released in the next 5 years, then,
Right.
kind of thing. And it's just like, I was like, well, then we recertify, or whatever. But it's just like, when he said that, it reminded me of just kind of like the long term and some of the stuff. But I think I think CrossFit. I think a lot of it comes back to this balance of like, what do we need from HQ and what do we have to do on our own, right? And I think that HQ has a lot of work to do. I'm going to be actually a part of a thing that HQ is launching within like the next couple of weeks that there'll be more information about to help like towards some of these things. And I think that initially, like, I don't think it can be overstated like how much of or how little of kind of like an internal workings of the actual CrossFit there was when Glassman was ousted. The company was largely, to my understanding, it was kind of like Greg's thing, and he just kind of did what he wanted. And if there were some degree of structures around that, then there was, and for other things, there was like no internal whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I think what Eric has walked into is very much a shell of like an actual organization.
Yeah.
And so I think that initially, the time when he walked into this company that was just like, a disorganized garage, and like trying to figure that out at the same time as walking into a movement of people for the first time in a long time were really interested in saying like, what does racial justice mean? What does racial equity mean? What are these, like, let's reevaluate these actual topics. And I think that I don't even think they realized, I don't think I do either, like, recognize the full scope of what needs to happen yet. So I think that there is a lot of work that they need to do, but I also think it's about not necessarily also waiting for them. Like, yeah, I would love for CrossFit to come through and say, yeah, we're going to help you, fund the gym in Kensington. I would love for them to say, we're going to, keep supporting these things. I'm also not going to wait for that. And I'm not going to say at this point, like, if they wanted to do that, that's great. And certainly to me, I'm like, yeah, this makes all the sense in the world. Like, this is such an easy win for you all. Like, let's do it. But also, like, we're going to do it regardless because it's important to us.
Right.
Like, after everything happened this June, we talked about, like, working with kids, right? Because, like, we sat down and we said, like, we saw what happened. We saw, like, we were boarded up on the street.
Yeah.
Like, stores on either side of us, were torn up, and, and we were like, what do we want to do? And you guys said, we're like, well, we need to figure out a way to work with kids. Like, because that's clearly a need relative to the way that kids, responded and kind of just what was happening,
How open was the discussion in your CrossFit gym and your community here when all that stuff was happening? Was it easily talked about back and forth depending on who it was, or were people kind of stepping on eggshell, like, or was it like
talking about
open?
racial?
I was going to say, were you guys even open?
We weren't even open.
We're in Philly.
Yeah, I mean,
we're in Jersey.
we started doing stuff outside. We couldn't do stuff. I mean, that was the beginning of June, right? Like, we couldn't even start doing stuff outside until the beginning of July. I think it was like July 6th or something like that. So,
or even before then. Is this a gym that, speaking on topics of race and inequality, is it something that happens often? Or, because, you lead some of the classes here, you have and do. Like, are those some of the things you talk about in class, or is class just class?
I got to say that we've talked about issues like that here and there. But this community is diverse. You got gays, blacks, whites, Asians, all types. So subjects happen. We talk about this and that. And I've never had a conversation where it was like uncomfortable with. I'm like, oh, I didn't know she was racist. I never had those type of issues in here. It's always been open and fair in this room, and I'm not just saying. I haven't found a place like this.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's interesting because when there was a gym that I had been to before, and they had posted something like, the gym is for the gym and fitness. If you have opposite, like, basically, we're not going to talk about our viewpoints. We're not going to talk about that stuff when we come to the gym. Let's focus on fitness. And I was like, what? Like, that, I don't know. Like, I think it's different. Like you said, if it's an open environment to talk about it, like, the gym is for stress relief. Like, I think that's what we keep going back to. Like, that's kind of therapeutic for us. And if I need to come here, I have my person that I see every day at 6 a.m. You're my person, and I'm just talking to you. I don't want to feel there's this bar of, we're not talking about it here. It stops at the door. Leave it at the door. But you guys seem to not feel that, I don't feel that way at my gym.
But when you're working out, there's conversations going on.
Exactly.
About anything and everything. And I personally never felt like, I don't talk about this.
Yeah,
I've never felt that.
that's good. That's really good. And that's
I think it's I mean I think it's a major cop out, frankly, for for a gym owner to say that like the gym is for the gym and like politics are the politics kind of
yes,
thing. Like
that was the message.
I think that if we've learned anything, hopefully from the past year, is that there isn't a dividing line. The who you hire, how you run your gym, how you speak, how you, all of that. It is one thing,
Yeah.
right? And so you are either doing it or you're not. But
Yeah.
there isn't the ability to just shut one off in favor of the other one, because you're not operating in a vacuum. You're operating in the world. Hopefully, our gyms in these spaces become places where the currency is effort. The currency is how you conduct yourself and how you hold yourself up, and that should be what's reinforced by, again, who you hire, who coaches at your gym, how the place is set up. Like,
Absolutely.
does the gym say that this is a men's bar and a women's bar, or do they realize that perhaps metal doesn't have a gender and they just have weights, right? Like, I mean, like, it
That's
drives
a
me
line.
nuts.
Yes, that's a Terry Ann line. She's like, "There's no such thing as a girl bar. There's a 35 and a 45. You
Right.
pick one." And I was like, "Okay."
Right, ready, go. Right, but that's
Yeah.
important, and I think that when you do say that you don't cross these lines, I think you miss a really valuable opportunity. Like,
Yeah.
I tell members a lot, I'm like, this is the only hour of your conscious day that you are not on your phone every like 12 seconds or looking at a screen. You're doing something different, and the people that you are choosing to do that with matters.
Yeah.
And the people who are leading you matters. All of
Yes.
that makes a difference, and that is deliberate. How you do that's deliberate, and it's
Yeah.
not just accidental.
Exactly.
So it's like, for me, people who look like me as a white straight male should be the minority, and that's what our coaching staff is. There is myself and one other guy who, cisgender, white male on our staff. Other than that, it is women or it is black men, and that should be the way that it is, because that's where we're trying to go.
That's the demographic. Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
what we want to do, So I don't know. It's the leave the politics to the door thing drives me nuts. It's like,
Yes,
okay,
me
well,
too.
you forget about the rest of the world.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I could probably talk for a very long time, but I know you guys have. I don't even know what time it is because my watch is dead. But we should wrap up because you guys have coaching to do. Some of us, and also it's snowing.
Yeah.
I know. Hey man, how many steps, everybody? I don't know.
Not much.
I apparently have been sleeping.
No.
But thank you guys so much, Jesse, Arthur, Wylie. This has been
Thank
so
you.
great. You. Oh, any other plugs that you guys have?
No.
ULiftU.
ULiftU.org. You can find out information about our community classes if you're in Philly, which Arthur runs the majority of them, Jesse runs some of them, where they'll be starting to take place again, which we're super excited about. You can also do them online. And then you can learn about our in-prison program that we do, as well as then just kind of all the different stuff we have going on. So, ULiftU.org and on the gram. Yeah.
ULiftU, and this has been great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
See ya.
All right, see ya.
Got the hookup now.
Thanks for tuning in. Lift and love all day, every day. Like and subscribe.